What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Brook. Welcome back to episode number 41 of the Crafted Podcast all about making stuff by hand, woodworking, metalworking, leather, electronics, and more. We put out new episodes every Thursday on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, pretty much everywhere podcasts are available. We also live stream on Wednesday nights on our YouTube channel. That's kind of a new addition for us. So you can just search for Crafted Podcast on YouTube, probably the easiest way to find it. But we stream every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Love to have you guys join us there. It's a lot of fun kind of interacting with the live chat there. So definitely check that out. Also, we have show notes for every episode on our website, craftedpodcast.com. We also have some social media accounts on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We are at Crafted Podcast. We've been trying to be a little more interactive there, especially on Instagram, posting listener projects. So if you have projects you want us to post, give us a tag there on Instagram. Last, we started a Patreon a few weeks back and are really chugging along there. We have our top patron, as always, is Make, Build, Modify. And we also added a $250 goal for a weekend show. So let me introduce my co-host, as always. I've got James Wright from Wood by Wright. What's going on, James?
Oh, so much is going on, and thank you for having me. I'm just pleased to be here tonight.
And I've got Zach Herberholz from ZS Fabrications. What's going on, Zach?
Hey.
So
Quick
yeah,
question before we get into it, do we have the live stream on Google, the chat thing?
Yes. Shoot that link over, James.
What's that?
I said, shoot that link over, James.
Oh, sorry, I didn't send that to you. Sorry.
I can't tell who's listening.
Yeah, apologize to the live listeners. We had a few little technical difficulties there.
I hit the wrong button. There you go.
Yeah, tried to make that sound a little better, but you know. All right, cool. So, James, you want to kick us off? What you been working on?
Yeah, well, I've been running a lot. This last week, I had my new weekly high. I did 47 miles in 1 week, but I ended up doing a 30-mile run, and that has been the highlight of my week. But this last week, I kind of took some time off. We did the family thing, went to the beach, and went to a cave, and just saw a bunch of things. So it was a good time away from the shop. But even then, I still got a few things done. So I built a set of planing stops, which a lot of people, when they first get into working on a bench, put a tail vise on and use the tail vise to hold the board in place for planing, which is perfectly fine and a great way to do it. But it takes a little bit more work to do because you're always loosening and unloosening the vise in order to work the piece. Whereas if you get decent at using a planing stop, which is basically just a board that is locked down on the bench that you can push your planed board up against, and it stops the board from sliding any further. That way you're never having to lock and unlock it from the leg vise, the end vise, and it becomes a lot easier. So I made a couple of those. Really simple little tool, but a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, I need to definitely make some of those because that seems very useful. I mean, the wagon vise is awesome, but yeah, having to unclamp and reclamp over and over and over again is a bit of a pain.
Well, especially for like routing, because you can make one along the back side of the bench, and then you put one across the bench. So you're basically creating a corner that wood can go into, and you can use a router to go around the corners right up against those pieces. And rather than having to clamp and unclamp it, you just rotate the piece and route the next corner. Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are very, very useful. Have you tried I guess, I don't know what they call it, the little bench crafted one that pops up out of it's kind of flush with the base and has the little teeth on it?
Yeah, the first one that I made is very similar to that, but a little bit more of a traditional style. And so rather than it just popping up and only being like a 1/4 inch high, this one is adjustable to be completely flush with the bed. And I can extend it all the way up to 1 foot above the bed. So if I'm planing anything, if I'm planing a log, I can put it on the bench and do that. So it's kind of an interesting design, but that video should be out. Well, if you're listening to this live, it'll be out tomorrow. So if you're listening to it in real time, it'll be out today.
Nice. Awesome.
But other than that, I've been playing with BLO, making boiled linseed oil and bleached linseed oil. And so that is another video that'll be coming out here very soon of actually making bleached linseed oil, which not too many people have heard about, but it's a traditionally it was a way of lightening the color of the oil, because linseed oil has a lot of natural color into it, which is great. It brings out the tones in the wood and really makes it come to life. But one of the traditional uses for linseed oil was actually mixing it with paints. And that color then yellowed down all of your other colors. Whereas if you bleach it, you can get that color out of it and still make it a functional finish. So if you want to have that oil finish, but you don't want to have all of the color of a linseed oil, you can actually bleach the color out.
Nice. Yeah, that was pretty cool to watch you make actual boiled linseed oil on the grill. That was it was kind of crazy. I was just like waiting for it to explode. It,
Yes.
it sounds so dangerous when you described it in the video. I mean, that's pretty intense.
I've been thinking about moving the grill a little bit farther away from the house and intentionally letting it
Just
go.
let it go. Yeah.
And actually catch it on video. I thought that would be a lot of fun, but I'm still too terrified to do it. I've seen a couple videos of a can going up, and it's.
Oh yeah, that would be intense. What is the flame point? Because you brought it up to like what 450 or something like that?
It's usually around like 480.
Oh wow, jeez.
So I brought it up to about 460 to get the boil marking on it. So yeah,
that's crazy. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I've never seen anybody do that. You know, your little crusty jar of BLO is always kind of intriguing. And that's kind of cool. It'd be definitely cool to see your buddies set up, I guess, with the vacuum boiler. Yeah. That sounds really.
I wanted to show it off a few times, and he doesn't, because he is a traditional painter, and so he makes his own oils, and he makes his own flax oil, and does all of that. But he doesn't sell it. He doesn't do it. It's just because I'm a friend. He gave me some. And he doesn't want me showing videos because there's the safety thing involved, and he's kind of, well, it's him. So
it's like he's making moonshine.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Huh. That's cool. Nice,
but
man.
It's really hard to find I found a place in Europe where I can buy boiled linseed oil that's been boiled and not had the dryers put into it. Because if you're just mixing in the dryers, you only have to heat it up to like 300 degrees. So you can stay well away from the flash point, but still make it dry quicker by adding a Japan dryer or a metallic dryer. But with just the traditional way, that's really the reason why they found putting dryers in is in the Middle Ages you didn't have accurate thermometers. You just heat up the oil and hope that your eye would catch that slight glisten when it changes form. And if it doesn't, you're still watching it and it suddenly explodes in your face. It was a dangerous thing to make. So once they figured out how to put the chemical dryer in it, it was something that suddenly became far more safe.
Nice. Yeah, that was cool. Well, I've been working on these chairs. Finally, actually just finished them up right before we got on here. So put the third coat of EnduroVar on as the clear coat. And man, I have very rarely been as excited to finish a project as with these things, man. That was a soul sucker of a project for sure. It's just been looming. I think I looked back at the footage. I think the first piece of footage I got for this project was like April 20th. So it's been a while. So I am very excited to have them done. The staining went pretty well. There were definitely a few hiccups. The color is not dead on, but it's pretty dang close. So I don't know. Trying to match a color like that is very, very tricky. And we were talking before the show, like people do that kind of stuff for a living, like restoring antique furniture and that kind of thing. And I did my best. So I think the client will be happy. I think it's close enough. And the other thing is it will probably fade or change color slightly over the next, year or so, just with sun exposure and that kind of thing. So happy with the way they came out though. I still can't believe I built the dang things. I mean, that was just
those are impressive.
A ridiculous
man.
project.
Like, there's
Thanks.
a lot going on there. Like I see those chairs and I'm like, damn, that's work. I mean, that's one of those things that I look at and I'd be kind of intimidated to build those.
Yeah, it was scary, man. I honestly probably would have just canceled the project had it not been for like my wife encouraging me to keep at it, because basically I was to the point where basically right before part 1 of my video ended, where I was getting those bottom side stretchers joined up, and it was just like compound miters and trying to figure all that stuff out with the domino and just trying to wrap my brain around all that stuff. And then I knew I still had all the crazy joinery for like the back splat styles and those side rail or the side, decorative styles or whatever. And I don't know. It was just crazy. I honestly had no business taking on that project, but came out on the other end with some very, good looking chairs. So.
I'd say it was a success. I mean,
they look identical. The actual construction of the piece looks totally identical. Like all of the parts and pieces are the exact same size. I mean, I obviously took meticulous measurements off of the pieces and, spent way too much time double checking and triple checking everything. And,
well, did you get like that sense of accomplishment when you finished? Like, it seems like you're just happy to be done with the nightmare. You don't seem like proud of the work that you did. I think
it's a weird one, because I think I'm anxious to see what the customer thinks of the color, because, they have 2 chairs and they wanted 4 more. So presumably all 6 of these chairs are going to be living around their dining table next to each other. So I'm just worried that while the color is very, very close, it's not going to be close enough for their, I don't know, for what they want. So we'll see tomorrow. I think, they're a family friend, so I think it's not, I don't know, it's not as nerve-wracking as like a full-on client, but it's still, still intimidating. The thing is, I'm, like examining this color, out in the bright sunlight, trying to really nail it down exactly correctly. And I think around a dining table in any, dining room with not crazy amount of light, it'll be not noticeable. So,
well, I mean, you never know what they're going to fade to.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like we kind of got into it a little bit before we started live, but I mean, like there's people whose sole job, like who make really good money and all they do is like do professional furniture restorations and paint matching specifically and like color matching antique stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do, and it's not an exact science, so I mean, I think their reasonable expectations shouldn't be for absolute perfection when it comes to color matching. I mean, it's hard enough to match house paint colors, let alone an antique chair.
Well, and I mean, stains are so tricky because they're not opaque. Matching paint is, I mean, it's hard, but it's not that hard. But staining, just the oak alone that I had for this project, I mean, out of the 8 back legs, there were probably 3 different distinct colors between the 3 of those. So, the stain is going to look different on all 3 of those. And who knows how it's going to absorb depending on what kind of weird grain is going on in each piece. So it's just, it's a bit of a crapshoot, but I think they'll be happy. The thing is, I always fret about delivering pieces, and then you go to do it, and they barely even look at it. And it's like, I've said this before. Like, I want them to like get down and like examine the piece. I want them to be completely obsessed with like every little nook and cranny. But they don't, because they're not the person who built it, so they don't notice all the little intricacies. So it's just a different kind of thing. But very excited to have it done. I mean, I'm definitely proud, but honestly, I'm just excited to have those things off of my bench, ready to move along to something that's more within my wheelhouse. And so next I will be building going from like a hardcore white oak chair to a plywood sofa. So definitely, definitely a big change of direction, but I'm excited to knock out something that's much more simple and also even more like my style. So that'll be fun. I think I'm trying to design it. It's a love seat. It's a sponsored project with Arrow Fastener, who I'm using one of their staple guns, and so I'm going to be creating some upholstery. It's based on this design that I saw in this store in Portland. And basically the sofa itself is plywood, and then the cushions are this really kind of interesting. It's like they took another piece of plywood, put a piece of foam on top, and then wrapped fabric around it. And so the cushion has like this hard bottom, and it's technically removable. But it's kind of a unique thing. So kind of interested to see how that's going to work out, using the staple gun, obviously, to attach the fabric around to the bottom of the cushion, so to speak. And should be pretty cool. It's a love seat size, so only about 50 inches wide. But I'm trying to figure out how I can squeeze the whole thing out of one sheet of plywood, because right now it's like 1 1/4 sheet, and that's just annoying. So I really want to do that single sheet build. So we'll see. But yeah, how about you, Zach? What you been working on?
It's been a crazy week, and it's been a crazy month, and it's going to get crazier. So I'm trying to remember where. Oh yeah, so I was in New York a couple weeks ago, and I have I finally got the desk I'd been working on out of the shop a couple of days ago. So that was great. Opened up a lot of room. I actually got to clean up a bit, which was nice. I have some pictures of that on my Instagram for anybody who's curious. Really happy with the way that one turned out. Working on the video right now, so that'll probably, if I'm lucky, I'll get it out next week. The issue I have is, so this table that I just started on the other day, the one with I don't know if you guys have seen the pictures, the gigantic steel legs on it. That thing has to be delivered by the 22nd, which wouldn't be an issue. But I'm leaving.
Except we're going to Nashville.
What's that?
Except we're going to Nashville.
Yeah, and I'm going to Cincinnati tomorrow.
Man.
So just got back from New York, had a few days to work on this new table, get the old one out. And it would have been fine if I had a shop to do 2 tables at the same time. I'd already be done with this one, but I didn't. So I had to wait until the desk got out of my shop before I could start building the next table. So
that thing turned out awesome, by the way, man.
Thanks.
Thing looks really cool.
Yeah, I think that might be my favorite piece. Like, yeah, I was kind of sad to see that one go.
Yeah. Isn't that stain like the best, dude? That's what I used for that farmhouse table I built, the Waterlux True Tone stuff.
Yeah,
it was the easiest stain I've ever worked with.
Yeah, and so it says to buff that stuff in, and I think I want to buff
for flooring.
Everything in from now on. Like, that was why didn't I think of that ever before? Like,
yeah, that was an interesting technique. Because I basically asked them, okay, the product is meant for flooring. That's like how they've kind of designed it. And so I was like, oh, well, how can I use this for a regular piece of furniture? And they said to dilute it for like a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 parts of the stain and 1 part of their original sealer. And that made it totally like a wipe-on product. And it would just put it on heavy and then wipe it off, within a couple minutes. And it was like unbelievably perfect, like no seams, like no lap marks between the each line of stain. It was just freaking awesome. So I was really interested to see you buff it in, though. I mean, for a tabletop, that's perfect. I mean, obviously for anything,
you can do that for like that farmhouse,
that would have been tricky, but for the tabletop, that was awesome.
Now to that thing, but it was God, it was so nice applying stain like that. And I have a container of those not eyedroppers, but the squeezy
pipettes.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. I have a container of those, so it was like it's the only time I've ever been able to apply stain without getting it all over my hands.
Yeah.
That was the best part. I just busted out the buffer and used the pipette and just squish the stuff on the tabletop. And it was so nice. It only took a minute. I didn't have to worry. It was really even. And the only thing I don't like about it, and it's not that I don't like it enough to not use it again, because the pros totally outweigh the cons, but like, so you have to put on the stain, then you have to wait a day, and then you have to do another coat of the topper, the finisher on it, and then you have to wait another day, and then you have to do one and then wait another day, and then 6. So I'm used to like spraying stuff in Florida, which means like
it's dry in a minute.
Like, yeah, it's like, oh, you need your table, you need to eat dinner by 8 p.m. I'll start at 4, and it'll be good to go. Like,
yeah, Waterlocks is a little bit of a different beast for sure. That is.
But, I mean,
the only thing I don't like about that product is trying to keep up on either a production schedule or a content creator schedule. Makes it a very difficult product to use.
Mean, it's one of those things that I feel like it's never as much of a deal as I expect it to be. Because I mean, like, usually, like, what's a day or two? Like,
exactly.
I mean,
3 coats is plenty in my experience of the sealer. That's really when
I use 2. I think it said to use 2.
On top of the stain, because that stain has tung oil in it. That's the interesting thing. It's like a tung oil based stain. So
so that was a fun project. I really like that one. So I got started on this next one. I just went and picked up more ash. I'm doing another ash top on this one, but it's not going to be essentially the last one. I cut them in strips and flipped them 90 degrees, so it's pretty much quarter sawn on that desk. This one's just going to be face grain. And then went to Fastenal and priced out an 1.25 inch bolt that's 6 feet long, or all thread, which is going to be a lot of money.
How much?
It's actually, so like online, I think they're like, their 1.5 inch was like $189.
Ooh.
And I'm like, ooh. I went into the store and I'm like, there's got to be something. Come on, guys. And I'm like, what's the best price you can do on this 1.25 inch? And the guy's like, $90. I'm like, okay. All right. So yeah, I'm happy with that. But yeah, so the tricky thing is, I'm like, oh, I need to get a turnbuckle. I need to get a turnbuckle for the center of the thing. And that's no big deal. I'll just find a turnbuckle. And then I thought about it. I'm like, turnbuckles need a left-hand thread and a right-hand thread.
Yeah.
And that would mean that I would need to find another piece of all thread that's left-hand thread, 1.25 inch, and they only sell them in 6-foot increments. And I'm not going to spend God knows how much more money to get a piece that I only need.
The left-hand thread's got to be like twice the price too.
So
that's going to be hard to find.
I'm not going to, because the turnbuckle's like $100, and everything's crazy expensive. So I'm just
This is what you need a metal lathe for, man. That would be kind of useful.
That would be great. I need a bigger shop, and I need to not live in Florida.
Yeah, although you need a metal lathe with 6 feet between centers, which that's
I don't need
a little excessive.
I don't need 6 feet of all thread. I need like 2.5 foot sections or something.
Oh, man.
But they don't sell it in anything less than 6 feet. So
yeah.
And plus, like I was saying, the turnbuckle, like, well, if I wanted to use a turnbuckle to connect the two because it'll look cool, I'm like, then I need to find another 6-foot section of left-hand thread, which would run me a fortune. So I'm just going to get 2 nuts and figure out a way to weld something together that looks like a turnbuckle but isn't an actual functioning turnbuckle. I mean, it'll turn, but like it won't. The point of a turnbuckle, it'll tension or press out on the 2 bolts. This one would just like move along
side to side.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. So let's see. I have notes here because I can't keep more than 3 things in my mind at the same time. Oh, guess what, guys? Finished the design book.
Oh, geez. Only, what? I mean, how long has that been? Like, it's been the whole time we've been doing this podcast?
It's been probably a solid 2 months. It's a big book.
You got your value's worth out of that book, man. I was thinking $40.
The first time I read it through was for pleasure. So now I'm going to go back and like do like research on it. I'm serious. I'm not going to do it right now. Like, I'm going to take a little vacation from it, and then I'm going to come back. There's just like so much knowledge to be soaked up from that thing.
It was a cool book for sure.
It's very cool. I just ordered one and sent it to Jimmy because I was showing it to him when I was there, and I think he'll like it. So, oh yeah, Tom from Dream Shop Works. I always like want to mix up the adjectives in his title for some reason. I think he's in the live chat right now too.
He is.
But a while ago, he sent me a bunch of really cool woodworking books, and on my flight tomorrow, I am actually going to start reading this one that he sent me. And I was checking it out. It's there's a series of books. I got 2 of them that he sent me. They're put out by, it's called the Furniture Society, and they have like a series. And there's some really, really cool stuff in there, like just some design stuff. I'll hold up the picture, like concrete and where's my camera at? That everything's backwards.
Is that bamboo on the front?
What's that?
Book? Is that like a bamboo piece on the front of the book?
Yeah.
Ooh, I've got some bamboo that my buddy he was at a park, and like, I don't know, there was some sort of party going on. There was a bunch of like 3-foot long sections of bamboo, and he was like, "You want these?" I'm like, "I guess I'll figure out a use for them." But so I have like probably 15, 4-foot long bamboo chunks. I'm trying to figure out what I should do with them. Nice. That looks like a good book. Cool.
Yeah. And let's see. I think I had something else. Nope, maybe that's it. Heading to Cincinnati tomorrow. I'm debating whether or not I want to try and do a video blog of it or not. I don't know if it'll be content related enough to justify.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I liked your last vlog. It was good. I mean, the GoPro makes that really easy, man. Having the gimbal, it definitely makes life very simple.
See, the thing I'm thinking is like in Cincinnati, I don't know, like I'll probably check out some cool like shops and stuff, but it's not like a woodworking event, and I have no builds going on, like.
Yeah, yeah, probably not. Do the vlog for the Dewalt event in Nashville. That'll be.
Yeah, I want to see useful. If they're cool with that. Like,
yeah, dude, they want us to. That's the whole point.
That would make sense.
Yeah, that's they definitely want us to. So cool. Well, I guess let's move into our. Yeah, I know. The Dewalt. I mean, technically, Stanley is their parent company. Yeah, or not their parent company, but part of their whole.
Dewalt. What is it now? Porter Cable.
Yeah, Stanley Black and Decker, I think, is the parent company. Yeah. We when we did the tour last year, like the Stanley section was like, it's all utility knives and hammers and that kind of stuff, and then it was like they didn't even mention, like, they had a couple hand planes on the wall, but they were completely messed up, like non-functional at all, and they didn't even mention them. Like, it was clearly just such a non-part of their business. I mean, which makes sense.
They had the blades in upside down, probably.
It was rough. It was rough because I wanted to try one because I've never actually tried any of the Stanley stuff like in person. But
their new Sweetheart line is actually not that bad for the price. I think it is one of the best starter deals out there.
Yeah.
I just got a note from my wife. She walked in. It says, "I was changing the sheets and Rico ate part of our memory foam mattress. On the phone with vet now."
Lovely.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, he's got a very comfortable stomach right now. Pillowy soft.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move into our show topic for the week on that note. So we're going to be talking about organization, not really in the shop. I think we've kind of covered that. More outside of the shop. So, whether you're a content creator or a person trying to, make projects to sell, or, really anything besides just making stuff for yourself, even making stuff for yourself, trying to have some sort of schedule is really helpful. And also keeping track of the things that you think, oh, I want to build that, like having some sort of repository for all those kind of things, super helpful too. So I guess let's go around. What do you guys use to plan out your projects, first of all? James. I feel like, James, you're going to be more organized than either Zach and I. So
Why would you do that?
I just have this feeling because I am not organized really at all, and I know Zach is probably not. So James is an Android user. That speaks volumes about that.
I don't plan out any of my projects like you guys. In other words, I don't design anything. I just kind of have a rough idea of I'm going to build a planing stop, and I'm guessing it's going to take me about a day and a half to do. So
interesting.
But then when it actually comes out to scheduling out the videos, I have the next 6 months or so rough scheduled. Because what I do is I use Google Keep for everything. I really like the way it syncs with Google Docs and other things, and just with Android, it's
Google Keep.
Google Keep, yeah.
Huh? What is it? What is that?
It's basically just a scratch pad, but it's a way so you can kind of quickly organize your thoughts. There's a bunch of other things, and it's a fairly knockdown version of like to-do lists and things like that. So you can record audio clips and pictures. You can make to-do lists, but in the end, it just ends up being like a whole bunch of sheets of paper in a document form. So you can kind of keep them all organized. So I have a list of inspirational videos or inspirational sites, things like that I'm always going to and looking for items and ideas. And so I'm always listing those out in there, or things that I want to point out to other people in the future. I'll list them in a separate list there. But then my big one is the list of videos that I want to create. So anytime I have an idea pop into my brain, I'll pull that up. And so I can just hold up my phone and say, add to-do list, such and such. And it will automatically add that to the bottom of the list. So I don't have to type anything out. I can just say it into my phone when I'm thinking about it.
I feel like, I don't know why I don't ever use Siri, but I never use Siri.
I use the voice to text for everything.
Oh yeah, man. It is outstanding for, like, if I have a long text message to send, or like, messaging on Facebook or whatever, I will almost always speak it because it is unbelievably accurate. I mean, I'm kind of anal about, getting my spelling and punctuation right, even when texting. So it's pretty awesome. And also Siri is extremely good for reminding you. So like, basically anytime my wife tells me I need to do something like the next day, I immediately tell Siri to remind me at whatever time to do that thing. And that way it will not let me forget. Like, it pops up and then it'll go away if I unlock the screen, and it'll pop up again like an hour later. And it's extremely effective. And I just, can hold down the home button, tell, hey Siri, remind me at whatever time to do whatever. And really kind of fail proof.
I think the issue I have is I just never remember that I like have it.
Well, neither do I. That's the thing. If I create to-do lists, I don't look at them. So having this reminder functionality, it actually goes off at whatever time you tell it to. I'm
gonna Siri you guys a message right now, and I want to see how accurate it is.
It's shocking.
The reminder feature constantly.
Color theory.
Yeah. So I'll be like out on the road, and I'll suddenly. Did it do color or Keller?
It said Keller.
There you go.
It likes you.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, it erased it. It just says color. Ha. See, now it's like saying all sorts of things that I didn't say. Like, we get that already erased images this color. Ha ha.
Yeah. So the list of what I do, because I do 3 videos a week, and so I keep a very long list. Like, it's now like 70 items long of possible video topics. And so every month I have on my month, I have automatic reminders coming up in my calendar that I think it's like on the second day of the month. One of my to-dos on that day is organize the next month's worth of videos. And then the first day of every month, I have a to-do, which is organize the next week's list of videos, because once the week starts, I have those videos locked in unless something drastic comes up. So I'm always thinking about the next week ahead of time in the build list. And so that it makes it kind of simple. because I live and die by my calendar. My calendar is key. Everything is in there. I have, like, in today's list, I have, recording a video on BLO, making a video for different types of saws. I have all of these things broken out, and then I've broken those out of, in this half hour, it's my intention to do the cutting of this project. In this half hour, it's my intention to transfer video files. In this half hour, I have all those things then broken out that I do at the beginning of every day. So every one of my days is scripted out from beginning to end. And that is how I get things done, which is crazy for most people out there, I know. But I live and die by that. But the beginning of every month, I calculate out the next month. The beginning of every week, I calculate out the next week. The beginning of every day, I calculate out that day. And if it isn't in the calendar, it doesn't exist.
Interesting. Yeah. So for me, I have a project, I call it a project calendar, but it's actually just, so I'm an Apple guy, like total Apple aholic. I have a MacBook Pro and an iMac and iPhone, and everything is Apple for me. So I try to use their built-in stuff as much as possible. I don't use a ton of Google products. I mean, I have a Gmail account, and then we use Google Docs for the show notes and that kind of stuff. But outside of that, I pretty much use mostly Apple stuff. So their Notes app, which is built into every iPhone and Apple computer out there, is actually really pretty good. So I know I put out one project video a week, or now it's kind of gone to 3 per month, and then one more project video for make, but it still ends up being one project video a week. And so I can go ahead and just list out the dates for the next, 2 to 3 months and put whatever project is going to be published that week next to that date. And that way I can kind of get a overview of the projects that I need to put out over the next couple of months. So then I can kind of work backwards from there and figure out, okay, what do I need to be working on this week? And what materials do I need to order and that kind of stuff. For me, my calendar, like my actual calendar, I really only use for if I have to go like travel somewhere, like go to some kind of event, or if we have people coming into town, like things that are actually going to lock up my time. I don't really use my calendar, to tell me what I'm doing every hour of every day, because I don't look at my calendar very much. So that doesn't, serve a really useful purpose for me. I like to be able to, have those big events in the calendar so that if I'm planning somebody to come into town or visit, or planning to go travel somewhere, I can look and see, okay, I am relatively open there. And, then from there, I know pretty much every Tuesday I'm putting out a project video. Wednesday nights we have the live stream. Thursday mornings I'm putting out a podcast, that kind of stuff. So I can kind of usually work whatever trips I'm taking around that schedule as well. So I know that was one of the questions from the live chat from Daniel. Basically, he asked, besides posting on Tuesdays, I guess is for me, and podcast, what other items or set schedules do I follow? And really, my life kind of revolves around project video and the podcast at this point, because those are really the two main set things for me. And I know that if Tuesday rolls around, if I don't have a project video ready, that's a problem for me. So, I know some guys are not, into the whole schedule thing, but for me, I am such a procrastinator and so ADD that I think if I just said, oh, I'll probably put out a video once a week, what would end up happening is I'd start putting out a video on Monday, and then the next week it'd be Tuesday, and the next week it'd be Wednesday, and eventually it would wrap around and I would have missed multiple weeks, and it doesn't work for me. So
that was the key thing for me when I went to 3 videos a week.
Yeah.
Because I would never do 3 videos a week unless I had it locked in stone that I am doing 3 videos a week and actually figure it out.
Yep. Yeah. It's, and the other thing is I think it works. I mean, I've seen some really good growth this year, and I think a lot of that is because I've just been grinding out videos. I mean, I I have not missed a week besides, like the Make Magazine videos I'm doing. And I still count that because that's a video going up on somebody else's channel that's being linked back to my channel and, all that kind of stuff. So, I have not really missed any content in the last over a year. So that's tough. Not only actually building the stuff, but keeping, a project list going. So that's the other thing I use the Apple Notes functionality. I have a separate list on there, kind of similar to what you were talking about, James, where if I have any sort of, it's just called crafted video ideas. And anytime I have any idea that could be a video project, I put it in there, no matter how stupid it might be. Because even if it's off topic for my channel, like these tap handles I did for the Make channel, probably too simple realistically for my channel, just based on the kind of stuff I build on there. But it's perfect for the Make channel because they really seem to like simple projects over there. So that any project idea is a good thing. Exactly. I mean, dude, that freaking video from Bill Lavolsi got more views than my projector screen. So, and it was popsicle sticks, so it's they seem to like simple projects like that, and I think it's because a lot of them don't have access to a lot of tools. So so those are the two main kind of lists I have going all the time, is the video ideas and the project calendar. And I also write all my voiceovers in Apple Notes. And the nice thing is anytime I put anything in there, it's on all of my devices immediately. So I also use Dropbox for all of my documents, SketchUp files, all that kind of stuff. Basically I work out of the Dropbox folder on my computer. And that way, as soon as I click save, it's automatically uploaded to the cloud. That way, if I'm on my laptop or anywhere else, I have access to all that stuff immediately. So Dropbox is pretty outstanding for that. But again, Google, I imagine you use Google for that kind of thing, James.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
That's what Google calls Keep is there.
Okay. Yeah.
My organization?
Yes, let's hear. Real physical organization. For anybody who's listening, which not watching the video chat, Zach is holding up a whiteboard.
2 of them. Which
terrifies me. What if you spill your drink?
One in red and one in black.
Wow.
Yeah. It's great. It's great because I keep things on there until they're not relevant anymore, and then I just wipe it off.
So what do you do if you're away from home and need to write something down or have a list or something? Do you have a pad and paper that you carry with you, like a field notes kind of thing, or?
I'll remember. I'll just well, I mean, if they get a hold of me, it'll be in my email or something. And yeah, I don't know.
Man, interesting.
Yeah, I still I have to write stuff down. I can't. I've tried doing the note things, and it's a great idea and stuff, and it works great, but I just don't get it's not the same. When I physically get a pen and a paper, something to write on and do it, it for some reason that's concreted, it sticks in my mind, and it's in my mind of things that I have going on. It doesn't work when I type it. I know I
used to do that, sense, but then I kept losing my clipboard with all of my written down information.
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting is I was listening to the Made for Profit podcast the other day, which great podcast if you guys don't already listen to it. And so they were saying this same kind of thing where writing things down physically is more effective than writing them down digitally. There's some sort of different, mechanisms at work in your brain that make you remember things better when you actually write them out. And they were saying that their to-do lists, every day, basically the night before, every day, they create a physical to-do list, a physical checklist for the following day. And they check that off. For John Malecki, it's a field notes. For Brad, it's just a little piece of paper. And that's something I've considered starting to try to do. Do you guys create a to-do list for every day? Because I do not. I have a vague... That's what I use
my calendar for.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And that's the other thing that I try and do with the calendar. And that's why I list everything out to the quarter hour, is not it's not I'm doing this at this time and this at this time and this at this time. It's my to-do list, and it fluctuates and moves. So I know that if I'm getting behind on the calendar, then that means I probably should ditch something else from my schedule and get rid of it so that I can catch back up. But
Yeah.
sometimes, the kids are noisy and it's easier for me to do this topic now. And so I can switch around that to-do list during the day. But yeah, that's what I use the calendar for, is the to-do list.
So the thing I guess I don't like about the calendar for that is that everything is so specific time focused. And as all of us know, that when we're doing anything making related, time is a little flexible, like it's very hard to accurately estimate, at least to me, exactly how long something's going to take. So that's why the to-do list thing.
Nothing in my daily calendar is anywhere solid. It's very, very fluid.
Okay.
But it kind of gives me the idea that if I have it all scheduled out this time, then if something's taking longer, then I can look at the rest of my schedule and say, is there something I want to get rid of today in order to stay on schedule, or do I just need to be flexible with it and move things around?
This section of my whiteboard right here is like my checklist. It's like, well, I can wipe that one off. See, this is so satisfying. This is like, look at that. The desk, it's gone.
So is that a project checklist? That's not a day-to-day checklist?
That corner is a project checklist, which is my day-to-day checklist. I don't need dates. Like, I do one project until it's done, and then I wipe it off and I go to the next project. That's usually the one right below it if I've been staying on top of things.
But, I mean, the thing is, realistically, what we're working on in the shop is a small fraction of what we actually are responsible for day to day. So that's to me what the to-do list could be useful for, is saying, oh, I need to send an email to whoever, I need to, call whoever, I need to go check my PO box, I need whatever it may be, I need to ship that shirt order that just came in. Those things that more the administrative task side, obviously I know if I've got to put out a project video for this project next Tuesday and I haven't even started it yet, tomorrow needs to be a shop day or whatever, but it's all those little things that end up getting lost in the shuffle and, fall between the cracks that I am very bad at. And thankfully I have a wife who's very good at that kind of thing, especially just on like our personal, finance side, paying bills, all that kind of stuff. I'm terrible at that stuff and she handles it extremely well. So that's very lucky for me, but, yeah, I think the daily to-do list thing is going to be something I am going to try to implement because I think, especially having a physical list, because I've tried, like I have the Wunderlist app on my phone, which is super popular, but I just never look at it. So I think actually having something that I can feel in my pocket will, like make me look at it maybe, but we'll see.
I think that's why I use the calendar as opposed to the to-do list for my actual checking things off, because I have the calendar then send me notifications 10 minutes before. And so I get that regular reminder of, hey, check the calendar, check the calendar.
Yeah, cool. All right, we've got a couple more questions regarding organization from the live chat. Another one from Daniel, Metal and Grain. So what's the preferred software for getting organized? So I think we've touched on whatever you're comfortable with, whatever integrates for all of us, well, not all of us, but James and I, what integrates with our phone effectively. So for me, I'm an iPhone guy, so Apple stuff. For James, he's an Android guy, so Android stuff. So to me, using whatever's built in is going to make your life a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, also be willing to experiment. As when I worked at my last job, I probably went through like 20 or 30 different checklist apps until I found one that fit me exactly.
Yeah.
And it was some weird, obscure one that no one had ever heard of, but I finally found it and it worked perfectly for what I wanted. And so everyone's a little different. Everyone's going to like something different.
Well, I know like Bob from To Make Stuff uses Trello extensively. And
that's cool.
I just signed up for that actually and just transferred some of my stuff over. The thing I like about that is for me, one of the other added layers to each project is what sponsor or sponsors are going to be on that project, because most of my projects have either one or two sponsors. So trying to keep track of that stuff. Usually those have some sort of deliverable thing, whether that's, just putting the mid-roll ad in and having a high-res version of their logo and all that kind of stuff. So having something a little more, complex than my just Apple Notes is useful. And Trello is really good for that. So I think I might continue to use that. But yeah, I mean, Caleb from You Can Make This Too just said in the live chat he uses Trello some when he remembers he has it, and that's the problem. Is any of these ad hoc pieces of software, you have to really be obsessed with it, and that's why I like the stuff that's built in, just kind of stock. So yeah, cool. Got another question from Tom's Dream Shop Works, Tom Ferroni. Or Ferrone, however you pronounce your last name, Tom. So he asks, do we track our shop hours for billing or time analysis? And I do not. How about you, Zach?
No way.
Yeah.
I
estimate.
I do. I mean, like, I think it would make it impossible to like predict or bill things out like that. And I think people are more comfortable with a solid number when they're like, how much is it going to cost for these chairs? I can be like, oh, well, it's going to cost this much, rather than being like, well, materials are this, and then I'll bill you for my labor. Like, I think that makes people nervous. And realistically, you find your day rate. And for me, it's pretty easy to estimate a job and how many days it's going to take. So I just break it down into sections and be like, oh, I can do the legs in one day. I can do this in the next day, a couple days to finish.
Yeah. That's the thing. I feel like tracking our time. I mean, the one good point Tom makes is for analysis after the fact, then we could get better at estimating project costs in the future. That's an interesting thing, because for me, I mean, tracking my time, it doesn't do anything for the customer, because I've already come up with a price before I even start the project. So it's not like if I build it faster, I'm not going to reduce the price realistically. And if I build it slower, I'm not going to raise the price. So, it all kind of equals out. So
that you never build the same thing twice. So it's really hard to use that information to figure out something else.
I'm not building the same, pallet table 900 times and putting it on my Etsy shop. It's just, custom furniture is really hard to predict, I think.
And for me, I can't count that high. There's just too many hours and things to run out after I take my shoes off.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I definitely think, tracking your time is very valuable for some things, especially if you were doing, batching out products and trying to figure out, okay, how much is this really costing me? Like for people who do craft fairs and that kind of stuff, I think that's a great technique. But it also takes time to track your time, and that's just something I don't want to do. That's always been my reason for avoiding tracking my time. So cool. Well, I think that probably pretty well covers it. Any other software or stuff you guys want to shout out as far as organization? I mean, I think Dropbox, Google, Apple, I think we've named a lot of the big ones.
Yeah.
Trello, if we remember to use it.
I'm thinking about like just going back to stone and chisel.
Yeah. Just get it tattooed and then get it covered up after you're done with it.
I'll get it like tattoo, cross it off every time.
That's funny. Cool. Well, I guess let's move on to we actually do have a joke of the week this week. So Richard Clark, thank you for sending this one in. This was a good one. So he says, I watched a documentary about how they fixed steelwork together last night. It was riveting.
That's good.
Pretty good one. So thank you, Richard, for that. Yeah, you got it. You got it. So that was a pretty good one, Richard. Thank you for submitting that. If any of you guys have corny jokes that relate to making stuff, hit us up at
Fred had one in the live chat.
craftedpodcast.com.
I'm trying to find it.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if it's relevant or not, but it was a solid dad joke.
Well, we can add it to next week. All right, so I guess let's talk about what we've been watching or listening to or reading, in Zach's case, probably. I'm actually going to kick it off this week. So I've spent a stupid amount of time in the shop the past week just trying to finish up these chairs, and have caught up on all the making podcasts and moved outside of the making sphere because I ran out of content. So There is this really awesome podcast called Mogul. It's about this guy, Chris Lighty. He was a hip hop kind of producer, manager back in the 90s, early 2000s, late 80s, that kind of time period, back when kind of hip hop was just coming up, especially in New York City. And really interesting. I'm a huge hip hop fan, and it was really interesting to kind of hear how people like Warren G and 50 Cent and people like that got their start, and really kind of some crazy stuff. So really well done. It's Gimlet Media, who is the same people who did the Startup podcast, which is outstanding. If you guys have never listened to that, it's a podcast basically about starting a podcast network, which is kind of meta, but really interesting. Going to get, VC funding and that kind of stuff. So really good stuff. So Mogul podcast, definitely go check that out if you're at all into hip hop. So cool. James?
I found the Minimalist Maker. She made a tool roll recently, but does a bunch of other things. And when I ran across her a week ago, she was at 8,000 subs, and I thought, wow, this channel really needs a lot more. And I went and looked at her today, and she's now up to 18,000 subs.
Whoa.
So it's, really, really cool video. And the video style is awesome, the information, and she kept doing things that were like, oh, wow, that's cool. I've got to try doing that. And it was great video content and great content. So definitely go take a look at her.
Nice. I just subscribed, so I'll go watch that after the show. Awesome. Zach, how about you?
So I watched Money Pit the other day. You remember that? I think it was late 80s with Tom Hanks, and they move into this house and everything just falls apart.
Yes.
Ring a bell? It's really funny. You should actually watch it. It's pretty good.
Nice. Is that on Netflix? I feel like I've seen
that. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Advertised to me before.
I sort of remember just a little bit of it. I think it was late 80s, but it's pretty funny. There's some good parts. Watch that. I've been reading that Furniture Society, or the Furniture Studio series that's put out by Furniture Society, the books. Podcasts, Invisibilia, and when I was hanging out with Laura Kampf up in New York, she recommended My Favorite Murder, which is kind of an interesting and funny podcast. So, yeah, that's it for me this week.
Nice. Cool. Well, I guess let's close it out with our favorite tool of the week. James, what you got?
I've got the good old-fashioned ball jar. The old canning jars, mason jar. I all the time, whenever we get pickles, I keep the jars. And I've gotten into making my own mixes of different finishes, different types of linseed oil, boiled and bleached and raw and store-bought. And of course, each of those then are mixed with different waxes and different shellacs and different lacquers. And I probably have 40 different jars right now in my basement, all labeled and marked out on the shelf. And I use each one for different reasons and different purposes. And it would not be possible without the good old-fashioned ball jar. So yeah,
nice.
That's mine.
Those are so useful for everything, man. I think every business I think I've ever worked in, when I was in the cigar industry, we'd store our pipe tobacco in there. When I was roasting coffee, I'd store my coffee in there. Now I store any finishes and that kind of stuff in there. I mean, they're just incredibly useful. So yeah, then whenever you see them on sale, stock up on them because they're just incredibly handy. You can even drink out of them and be really hipster. So you could even create a little leather handle for it. I've seen that all over the place at very, hipstery coffee shops. So although I think that's a really dumb design, but I'm not going to go.
Never like drinking over the threads. I always feel like.
Well, especially glass and hot beverages. Just to me, they don't go very well together. But
this is like the ceramic cup, but
yeah. I don't know. It's weird. There's no handle, so you have to create a handle. So it's this loose leather handle. And
yes. That
I don't know. It just freaks me out. But anyway, so my tool of the week is this HVLP system that I got a little while back, the Fuji Q3. Man, this thing is a beast. It is. So I really like the Earlex, the HV 5500. It's a great kind of, I think, starter HVLP system, but there are so many little fit and finish things that are upgraded with the Fuji. Just the way the hose connects to the gun itself, and just so many other little things. It's really quiet, actually. I think that's one of the Q3. Like, I think that's quiet is what the Q stands for. So it's like a 3-stage quieter HVLP, but it just works great. It's got all kinds of controls, a lot more controls than the Earlex did. You can actually control like the amount of air that's going through. You can control the fan size and control the amount of material that's coming through. So very, very easy to dial in exactly how much finish you're getting. And, it's as Zach was saying, he usually sprays finish. I usually wipe on finishes. So being able to spray finish on this, on these chairs was awesome. I put 3 coats on in like 4 hours. So that's unheard of for me. So I was very excited. So that's my tool of the week. Zach, how about you?
I'm going to go with the Dewalt plate joiner. It's a biscuit joiner. I've done this. Today I started the glue up on this next table I'm working on, and it just makes alignment so easy. If I had just a glue up of like 1 or 2 boards, I'd probably just use the plow plane and do a spline joint. But when you're gluing up, 5, 6 or multiple boards, It just makes it really quick and easy. And the time it saves you in sanding is worth it alone.
Yeah, I don't understand people who do panel glue ups without some sort of alignment, because it just, I've tried it. I've tried to be really meticulous about it, maybe use some calls and that kind of stuff. But whether it's dominoes or biscuits or dowels, I think using something for alignment just saves you so much time.
Yeah, I used to do it without them, and I'll never go back.
All you have to do is hold off on your surface planing until after you do your joinery.
Yeah, well, that works too. Well, unless you have
a 40-inch wide plate and you just do that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem for me, is I want to be able to pass everything through my machine. So, I'm limited to 15 inches for my planer.
Dude, you are the machine.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good on that. Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's show. People in the live chat and our $5 and up patrons, stay tuned for the after party. We will be jumping right into that after we close this show out. But if you guys don't already support us on Patreon, we did add a $250 goal level there. If we hit that, we will be adding another show every week, a weekend show. So that's a pretty big incentive, I'd say. A weekend show for everybody. So if we hit that $250 level, that's going to be pretty awesome. That Patreon is pretty much the only way that we are supported for the show. We don't do any advertising or anything like that. So really helps us out. So definitely go check out our reward levels over there if you're at all interested. Also, if you're really digging the show, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Very, very helpful to help the show get in front of more ears. So I think that's going to do it for this week's show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And until next week, happy building.
See ya.
All right, let's get into this after party. So we've got a couple questions. I think we can answer probably 2 of them very easily. So first comes from Dusty to the Max. So he asks, he's looking to buy 1 or 2 hand planes, and which planes would we recommend? Not so much brand, but just the number or type. So James, I think let you take this away.
That's a loaded question. It really depends on what you want to do with it. Most people want a plane for, cleaning up the joinery that they didn't use a plate joiner to connect the 2 boards together. Or they're looking for a block plane to chamfer edges. And those are probably the 2 most common things for people who come from power tools. If you got yourself a cheaper low angle jack, particularly like the new Sweetheart from Stanley, it's like $120 for a really decent quality hand plane. And that'll last you for a good long while. And the low angle then is easier to push through, and it's easier for the beginner to learn. But if you're wanting to get into it for actual hand plane woodworking, traditional woodworking, then I would suggest number one to get a number 4. It's a little shorter than your jack plane. It's about 9.5 to 10 inches long, and that is a great all-around plane. And then second, to either get a number 5 or a number 6. With either of those, you can start getting into doing some jointing, and they allow you to do more of the longer works. You can do most anything you want with either a number 4 or a number 5. If you're going to be doing a lot of larger furniture, then the number 5. If you're doing a lot of smaller projects, then the number 4. So I guess that it depends on what you're wanting to do more of. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. I mean, I'd say on the power tool side, I think the most useful are a block plane. I have the H&T Gordon, I guess they're high angle block plane, which is great for, chamfering edges and cleaning up ingrain, that kind of stuff. And then a low angle jack plane, which is kind of a jack of all trades kind of plane, depending on, especially like the Veritas one I have the 3 different bevel angle blades and can do a whole lot of different stuff with those. So
yeah, I think for the average power tool user, that's really all you need.
Yeah. Yeah, the block plane
unless you want to do your own edge jointing, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you cannot afford or don't have the space for a jointer, then
or you just want the fun of it.
Yeah. Or you want to be really old timey and cool,
I agree with James. I feel like it's totally dependent on what you're doing. Like,
totally.
If you're, I guess you already said it all, but like I started out, if all you're going to do is chamfer stuff and little end grain stuff, then a block plane is good to clean up stuff. But I started out with a 4.5, which I feel anything like 4, 4.5, or 5, I think is a pretty solid choice.
Yep. Yeah, and you can find those used all over the freaking place.
Yeah. And from then it depends on how you sharpen the blade. Like if you put a radius in it, hog off more material faster, but it won't leave as nice of a surface.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's one of the interesting things is that for a power tool user, a block plane is a very useful tool. For a hand tool person, a block plane is really kind of one of the last planes you ever pick up.
Yeah. So yeah, we had this discussion in the first episode, and I was completely shocked because I think 99% of the time I'm grabbing the block plane because, for what I do, most of the time it's I'm too lazy to pull out the router to chamfer the edge. So, or I don't feel like dealing with, burning if it's maple or whatever. So cool. We got one more from the Duck. So what cameras did we start with on our YouTube videos and what do we use now? So, James, what you got?
I really would suggest if you're just getting into YouTube and you want to experiment and play with it, just use your phone. Honestly, if you have a new phone that's been made in the last 2 years, its camera will be just as good, if not better, than a 3rd generation GoPro. They're really quality video cameras, and you can put up some really decent stuff on YouTube. You're not going to be able to do the shallow depth of field and the cool artistic things, but until you've been putting up videos for a while, that's not even something you need to think about messing with.
Totally.
And so really use your phone, take videos, put up videos, and experiment with that, because you have to learn all the other things about YouTube and how do you put up videos, how do you capture them, how do you edit them, and those are the key things you have to get down first. So don't spend money on it until you know what type of videos you want to create. Yeah. And then you can dive into the whole what camera to get, and those you just go off the chart.
And I would argue that audio is more important than video in a lot of ways. So especially if you have a more recent iPhone or Android device that has a decent camera on it that performs well in low light and that kind of thing, because that's one big thing in most of our shops. We don't have great lighting, so it needs to perform decently in low light. So that's one thing to consider. But yeah, I think audio is just as important, if not more important than video. So you can plug pretty much any shotgun mic into the iPhone, headphone jack. I guess they got rid of that on the recent versions of the iPhone, but on the older ones. And you can do the same, obviously, on Android devices. But a little lavalier mic that's super long if you want to be kind of standing in front of the camera talking, or a shotgun mic. Very good investments. Lavalier mic you can get for $60-70, and good shotgun you can get for like 180. And I would definitely recommend that over a camera at first. So for me, what I started with was the camera that I had from the company that I was working with at the time, and that was a Canon 6D, which is a very fancy, expensive camera with an L lens on it, which was like a $1,500 lens on like a $2,000 camera body. So I think I started like way nicer than most people do. And then once I quit to do this full time, I had to give back all that camera gear. So I bought the Panasonic G7, which I like a lot. I'm really enjoying the Micro Four Thirds format, and I use pretty much exclusively prime lenses at this point, mostly because I could get a lot more of them for the money. So I have like a 25 millimeter, which everything on Micro Four Thirds is equal to twice the full frame counterpart. So a 25 millimeter is really a 50 millimeter lens. I also just picked up a 42.5 millimeter lens, which is an 85 millimeter equivalent, which is great for that super sexy, like close up shot with total, blown out background. I also have a wide angle lens if I'm standing in front of my bench. So yeah. Zach, what about you?
I use the first camera I bought still, which is a Canon Rebel T3i. And yeah.
But you just picked up a GoPro, right?
Yeah, I did a couple weeks ago. That's what I shot the whole vlog at Jimmy's place. I shot everything on the GoPro, which was pretty cool. It was fun to use. Like the little gimbal is neat and it's quick and easy. So yeah, maybe one of these days I'll upgrade, but it's kind of hard to justify in my current shop, and it seems to get the job done. This next video that not the desk video, which will be out in a week or so, but the one that I'm working on right now, the dining table, I'm actually incorporating the GoPro footage into this build, so it'll be easy to see, or it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, that's
my current video camera is the Panasonic GH4, which is a sweetheart of a 4/3 plane, 4/3 camera. But I'm going to be soon dropping 3,000 on a new body and set of lenses for the GH5.
That's crazy.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's my, I guess, next upgrade at some point in the future.
It's a solid enough camera that it is often used in professional shoots for the body on it. So it's
got some sweet features,
high quality.
too.
And you can set it up to just do automatic, just shoot and go, but you can also do all the dial in and make the image exactly what you want.
I think I paid like probably $200 for my Canon.
Yeah.
And that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
I mean, it really depends on what you're going to be doing with it and what you want. I mean, Zach, the stuff you do, it would be ridiculous to spend $2,000 for a camera body. Like you don't really do shallow depth of field, mostly wide stuff. Like it's just, it depends on the look you're going for, and how crazy you want to get with dealing with the details of every shot, which can really impede your workflow. So, it's always a balancing act, but the GH5 has some pretty compelling features. The dual SD card slot, where it's constantly recording to 2 SD cards, really kind of excites me in case one gets corrupted somehow, which definitely happens. It's got some other cool stuff. So cool. Well, I think that's probably going to do it for the after show. So thanks to all the live listeners for sticking around, and thank you to all of our $5 and up patrons. And I guess until next week, happy building.
See ya.
See you later.
Alrighty.